What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more Idle Heroes, and today we are doing our December tier list. Now, this is going to be the last tier list for overall performance you're going to see come next year, probably around Chinese New Year's when our next tier list will happen. Although we might do the next one a little bit sooner because we're going to be changing the complete format up. We're going to get a lot of help from the community to build it, so it's a lot more informative, so you don't need to listen to this mouth as much. We can share the graphic without needing you guys to listen, but for the time being, this overall performance tier list, I highly recommend you listen to the justifications and the reasons why each hero are in the tier they are and in the order they are, because as we know, from the left side to the right side of each tier in this list is going to be how useful they are. So something in the very left side of the tier, of A tier, is going to be much more useful than the furthest right in the A tier. So we're going to jump into this. Hopefully it helps you guys out. We're going to do a much better job come next year in our tier list, that they're going to be a lot more informative just from first look. We'll start sharing those. So let's jump right into it. Okay, now the order that we place them on this tier list is irrelevant. They're just the order the image files came in. Now, it is a weird setup because we had to add a new tier. An A+ tier is something new in this time because it's kind of hard to say and justify A+ heroes being in the same tier as A heroes, which is pretty much the justification here. So let's jump into it. A lot of these heroes are going to be very quick. We're just going to knock through them if they're not that great, but some of them we're going to go into detail why they're in the spot they're in. So starting off on this list, we are going to go with Faithblade. So Faithblade, very old light hero. He does have imprints. Every hero besides 2 have imprints on this tier list. We have every imprintable hero. He can get CLAN 20 done. He was the old way to get it done before Russell, but besides that, not really that useful. He can be used as a support hero in Aspen dungeon pushes. But besides that, not really much use. Another light hero that is going in the same tier is going to be Belrain. She has fallen very, very hard in recent times. She used to be one of the best support and healing heroes in the game, but there's just really much better supporters. Everything she does, somebody does better. So as much as she's used in CLAN 25 pushes, I wouldn't really put her value very high. Next up is going to be Mim, F tier, mainly because Mim cheese has kind of died off. Nobody really uses Mim much anymore, so is what it is. One surprising pick here is going to be regular Shia in the Fortress faction. So she is a householder or a tenant in the householder for Sword Flash Shia. I mean, I would never build 2 of them unless you're going very premium, because she will have a higher attack value than Fiona. So you could build her on really endgame accounts, but she can get CLAN 20 done. You could always then take her and convert her into your Sword Flash, which should be your first Transcendence hero. So not the worst hero in the world. But is she going to be ranked very high? No, I don't think so. Same tier in C is going to be Cthulhu. C tier is pretty much they do one thing very good and not anything else. So Cthulhu, really good at early CLAN. Besides that, does okay in Aspen Dungeon, getting to Death 1, Death 50. Beyond that, absolutely no uses for him. So he's decent, but not great. Another hero that kind of falls in the same spot is going to be Horus. Again, very good early game, but drops off very, very quickly. And the reason why he's not ranked higher, he might be good in the early game, but we're talking about overall longevity on an account. You got to remember, early games like 1 month nowadays, mid games about 6 to 12 months, and then you're in the late game past that, end game, when you're really spending and getting like really good heroes. So when he's good in the early and mid game, that's great, but that's only like maybe the first year of your account or less. So moving on, we have Aspen. Aspen is going to have a B value here. So B is they're good in a couple different places, and they have more longevity on your account. So Aspen's great at getting CLAN 20 done. Honestly, he can get it done as a 6-star. He's going to be the next Transcendence hero, so building him might not be the worst thing in the world if Aspen ends up being a very good Transcendence hero. So yeah, not too bad. Next up is Ada. Ada kind of has some uses in PvP, in Aspen Dungeon, but she's not really amazing anywhere. The bonus for her compared to some of these other heroes in the C tier is that she has more longevity. She'll be more useful holding her on your account in the late and end game versus some of these other heroes. So that's why don't want to bump her up too high. Next up is Oberon. Oberon's going to be better than Mim in my opinion, but still in the F tier. Literally his only use is like maybe some niche PvP, and as you guys have seen on our Twine meme team, you know, he can do decent in Aspen Dungeon, but do you really want to use him? No, you don't. So our first B tier, or one of our higher B tier heroes, I should say, is Penny. Now she has dropped recently from A tier, mainly because, again, she drops off very quickly, but what she is good at, she is very good at. Sealand, Aspen Dungeon, PvE damage in the early game, very good, but she's going to drop off, and she's not going to be a tenant for any of your heroes on Cloud Island. So while she can be good and she can be infuriating when she doesn't crit, she's a solid hero, but not a hero you want forever on your account. Now, next up, we're going to have our first A+ tier, and that is Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra is a safe build for anybody out there. You'll use her here and there and everywhere, and she'll come and go out of metas. She'll be used in Void Vortex. She'll be used in Realms Gate, PvP. Like, she just has a use everywhere, and she's absolutely required for Sealand 20 and 25 in the Dark faction. Very versatile hero that you'll see relevant for years to come just because of her skill set. Next up is Nakia. So Nakia is funny because all these Abyss heroes can get Sealand 20 done, but Nakia, she lacks compared to a Cthulhu in my opinion, because all she's really good for is getting a Sealand 20 done. Not as easy as other Abyss heroes at that, so not great. She does have a slowing ability with her active ability for backline enemies, but it's not really relevant. So overall, not really a hero you want to be building. Next up, we're throwing Gustin into the C tier. Now, Gustin, you need multiple of him for Sealand 25, but outside of that, he's not really needed. He could be argued to bump down to the D tier, but I think his value is he's always been borderline usable. And I still think that holds true, but he does have value now with Sealand 25. We're going to keep him in that C tier. Another one that is going to go up in the B tier, but is going to go much higher than others, is going to be Garuda. Probably the easiest hero to get copies of in the early game, can get Sealand 20 done. Very good PvE damage, very good early PvP damage, but then has another significant fall off just like Horus does in the mid to late game transition. However, she does kind of stay relevant a little bit longer. A good hero, but not the best hero to have, but a very solid early and mid game hero to pick up. Next up, we have Unimax. Not really good at anything. Not going to talk much about F tier heroes, so let's just move on. Tara. So Tara can get Sealand 20 done nowadays with enough Void Imprints and all this other nonsense, but again, not a hero you want to use. His seals can be powerful, but not powerful enough to actually be relevant. Now, this one is a little surprising, but Carrie is not going to be going up into the A+ tier or the S tier. She's going to be in the A tier, mainly because in the early and mid games, she really doesn't do anything. And even in the late game, she is more of a niche utility style hero. She's not as relevant as she once was, but because of the way her revives work and her energy drain works, again, she's like an Amun-Ra. She's always going to be relevant in some way or some form. So building a carry on your account is not a bad idea. And the next one is very much a contentious or a contended one. I'm putting Olivia in the C tier. A lot of people think she should be in the B tier above like a Heart Watcher or something. She has uses for like late game accounts now that are pushing Broken Spaces 8 and 9. She can be good in Void Arc, but beyond that, she's not that useful. She can be used as a support for Sealand. She's a good build, but not a build that I would recommend most average players to go for. Next up in the A tier, we have Delacium. So Delacium is part of some of the best PvE teams, but by himself, he's only good. His replication ability is very strong. In the Ithaca Delacium army, he is part of the best PvE damage in the game. He's a very good Sealand 20 for the Abyss faction clear, but beyond that, he kind of doesn't have any uses. So A tier is good. I don't think I'd put him higher or lower. He just fits nicely, probably towards the bottom of the A tier. And remember, everybody we put on the left side of this tier list is a better version than anything to the right in the same line. Now, the next one, you guys might jump all over me, but we've been talking about Ithaca a lot. Ithaca is going to go at the bottom of the A+ tier, and that is mainly because, yes, she's very good in the early game. Not as good as other heroes. There's better shadow alternatives to build that will work better in multiple game modes. Yes, she's part of the best PvE team out there. She's good in Void Arc in the late game, but her value is kind of slipped for overall usefulness on your account. I would still keep her in the A+. She's still a very good hero, but not quite the S or S+ from previous tier lists. The meta keeps shifting, and that's kind of my reasoning. Now, next up is going to be Sherlock. Sherlock can, of course, be solo C-Lane 20 viable. You absolutely need one or two of them to get your Sword Flash to C-Lane 25 in Fortress. He's also making a comeback in the PvP meta. Besides that, not as useful, but I still think having a Sherlock on your account is good because he's a Tenant. And Tenants can be very, very important. At least if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure he is. I might be wrong. Next up is going to be Russell. Russell has also kind of stumbled down the tier list here. He's going to be somewhere in the middle of the B tier. Yes, he's a very good early game hero if you can build a light hero that early. He's required pretty much for very easy solo C-Lane 20 light faction clear. He's very good PvE. He can do decent PvP in the mid and late games, but he does fall off significantly. And his uses just aren't as versatile as some of the other heroes on this list. Now, one of our first S heroes is going to be Drake. Defense down and dodging are amazing. Defense down is required for all PvE content. He synergizes well with the best hero in the game, Sword Flash Shia, and he's usable in just about every game mode outside of like Aspen Dungeon. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the S tier. Is pretty close to the top of every single game mode that they exist in, but not quite in the top 3 or 4 heroes. So the S tier is kind of that almost perfect, but they do have some modes that they're not exactly the best in. Speaking of him, we have another assassin going up. Remember the days where assassins were the worst heroes in the game? Well, now they're towards the top. Rogan. Rogan is useful everywhere, except for like Aspen Dungeon. He's one of the best supports in the game. Even when you're not using Drake, you'll use a Rogan a lot of times. His speed, his bloodthirst ability on his active, he's just so versatile. He can get solo C-Lane 20 cleared out. Granted, it takes a little bit more than the average hero, but he can still get it done if you don't want to build a Garuda. Another good option is build a Garuda, hot swap it into a Rogan. Perfect transition. You'll use him for the rest of your life on your account. Now, we do have another A+ hero that we're going to bump at the top of the list, Ignis. Ignis is another one. Absolutely perfect hero, even at like a 9 or 10 star for C-Lane 20 pushes for your main carry. And then you're going to want an E5 plus some 9 and 10 star versions for your C-Lane 25 push with Scarlet Queen Halora. Her value is very good. She's good in every game mode you place her in besides Aspen Dungeon and probably like pure boss PvE damage. But her energy feeding, her death giving, 100% control immunity, just an amazing, amazing support hero to have on your account. Now this one, we had trouble with Tix. We put Tix all the way down in the A tier. We had him in the S tier. We put him finally in the A+ tier. And I appreciate everybody that came by our Twitch live stream while we built this tier list and kind of had a consensus from the community. He's just so good for so long on your account. Granted, he's not good in the newest version of every game mode, but in what he is good at, he's like within the top 2 or 3 in every single game mode. He is very versatile, amazing in Aspen Dungeon, good in Sealand, amazing in Tower Oblivion, not good in Tower Dream. Good in Vortex up to Valiant. He's usable there. He's just very, very versatile. And even nowadays, his death giving that little ghost that ticks away damage every round, it can still be very relevant. So Tix, still very good. I do rank him nowadays above Ithaca because I'd honestly rather have a Tix on my account than an Ithaca in most situations. Now, very relevant to the past couple days videos, we're going to be talking about Inosuke. And Inosuke is going up in the A tier for one big reason. Yes, he is still a solid solo C-Lane 20 clear. He's a good PvE damage dealer. You might not use him everywhere, but you know what he is the most useful for? and that is a tenant spot on Sword Flash Shia's island. You are not going to be wanting to build an Onkirimaru, which shares a spot with him. He is definitely the one you build to power up your Sword Flash. You're always going to have an Inosuke on your account. Unless Aspen, Transcendence Aspen, completely shifts the meta away from Sword Flash, you're definitely going to want an Inosuke from day one on your account as your first built hero all the way to the end game because of Sword Flash. Simply because of that. Tenants and Cloud Island have changed the meta so much, you want an Inosuke on your account, which is why he goes in the A tier. He's good at some things, and he's a tenant. Very solid. Next up, we have Flora. I'm a little biased, so I kind of bumped Flora down a couple tiers. So a lot of people would put her in the B or C tier. Me personally, the Twine Mean team was a struggle. I just don't think she's as good as people think. She can get solo Ceiling 20 done, but it requires a lot of investment into Void Imprinting and Star Spawn and all these other things. She has a decent CC on her active, but is not reliable. She's decent in Aspen Dungeon, but again, she's just not great anywhere. Next up, we're going to do this more properly. I would put Trashy Lago all the way at the end, but we'll put her in the middle of F tier. Just one of the most disappointing hero releases, I think, to date in all of Idle Heroes. Was supposed to be one of the best events of the year at Chinese New Year. Ended up being the worst hero we've seen in years. But still more useful than some other heroes. But the hype of her kind of killed it, so... yeah. Next up is going to be Mirax. He's going to go below Aspen in the B tier. He's very good at solo C-Lane. He's pretty good at Aspen Dungeon. In the early and mid games, he's decent. I believe he's a householder as well. I don't remember for who. I think it's Queen. I think he's a householder for Scarlet Queen. But overall, he's not that bad of a hero to have on your account. He's pretty versatile. His base attack's not great, but his active ability hits like a truck. Now, the next one is going to go higher than I normally would place them, mainly because of the same reason of Inosuke, and that is Fiona with being a tenant for Sword Flash Shia. She's a decent support hero. She's not bad. You're going to want her for your solo C-Lane, or not your solo, your C-Lane 25 push in Fortress, just like you will your Inosuke. That's why these three Fortress heroes have so much value, because of Sword Flash pushing C-Lane 25, because Sword Flash is going to be your first E5, or your first, I guess I should say, Transcendence hero on every account out there. If it wasn't, you should have. So yeah, she has good support, but because she is a tenant, it ups her value quite a bit. Next up, we have Gloria. A lot of people sleep on Gloria and don't really realize how good she is. Her CC and damage is not subpar. It's actually pretty solid. She's part of some cheese teams for Void Realms Gate. So she's not bad, but is she that useful? No, which is why she's going to go down into the C tier. Now, another one going down, way down into the D tier is going to be Forces. Was decent when he first came out because he countered Rogan's, but quickly fell off. He can get solo C-Lane 25 or 20 done in the Dark Faction with the normal Amun-Ra carry setup. Outside of that, not really. Now that brings us to our first S plus hero. Whoops. Sword Flash Shia. This is a must-have hero for everybody, everywhere, no matter where your account is in the game. It should be your first Transcendence hero, and she is the strongest. She is number one in just about every single category. When you're talking about like PvE damage, she's probably like number 2 or 3. Aspen Dungeon, she's like number 2 or 3. Void Vortex, she's number 1. Void Arc Boss, she's pretty much up there with Ithquin, number 1 or 2. No matter what game mode you talk about, her synergy with Drake is just insane. You need Sword Flash, so build her. Right up there, but not quite as good, is Scarlet Queen Halora. She is the easiest solo C-Lane 25 hero in the game. Yes, you need Ignis with her, but she's just beyond good for C-Lane pushes. She's the easiest first C-Lane 25 to get, and beyond that, she is one of the best supporters plus damage in the game. She's going to be part of the best PvE damage dealing. She's going to be part of Void Vortex, Void Realms Gate, Void Arc. She's everywhere. She's always in PvP. These are the two must-have heroes. Sword Flash, number 1 Transcendence you build. Queen, number 2. You should have both of those within the first year of playing your account. So, yeah. Now, we're actually dropping the next Transcendence hero down a bit to the A+, and that's Asmodel. Pretty much one of the last ones you want to build out of the current set of Transcendence heroes. He can be good in a lot of game modes, but he's not required in any of the game modes. There's always better options out there. There's much better Transcendence hero options out there. Really, the only people that use him are the ones that have multiple, like 3 to 4 to 5, all 5 Transcendence heroes right now. He can be good. You do technically have a very good option for Light Sea Lane. Light Sea Lane has become very easy with a strong Asmodel with good Tenants on Cloud Island and good Star Spawn. It takes like a Belrain and an Andrea at E5 to actually get it done. Nowhere near what it took us when it first came out. So he can be good, but not really required. Now, the next hero is interesting, and this is the part you definitely open those ears up and listen. Starwing Jara. If you have your Splendid Rui Scepter and you have your 16 Demon Bells for proper energy feed, she is borderline S+, and that's mainly because Vanquisher 1 pushes in the Vortex are very important. Now, the reason why, if you don't have those artifacts, honestly, I would probably put her down the bottom of the A tier. So either top of S tier or bottom of A+ tier, depending on what artifacts you have. I might even bump her down to A tier. She's probably the last one to build out of all the Transcendence if you don't have all the pay-to-win artifacts you need. For the time being, we'll put her at the bottom of S because she could be either the top of S or the bottom of A+. It really just depends on your setup. Because yeah, her CC is just insane, but you do need to get tons of actives off on her to be that really god tier hero. So again, she could be all the way up here. She could be all the way here. We're just going to place her at the bottom of the S tier, so make sure you guys know that. Next up, we have Eloise. Eloise is probably the best first E5 hero to build because she gets Sealand 20 done at like E3. She's very good at Realm's Gate. She's very good at the early Vortex difficulty. She's good in Tower of Oblivion. She beats the Mim Waves. She's good in Tower of Dreams. Like, I would be borderline putting her above Rogan here as well, but Rogan's longevity on account is much longer than Eloise. But Eloise in the early to even late game is just one of the best heroes you could possibly build. I think I might just put her at the top of S just for the screenshot, so to speak. But she's definitely up there with Rogan. They're definitely the top 2 of the S tier outside of the 2 Transcendence heroes that just take the top over. Next up, we have Waldeck. Waldeck is a very strong hero, can be used in the current PvP meta, can get solo Sealand 20 done very easily, even helps beyond Sealand 20 if you need to with his Blood Frenzy ability for giving attack and healing to your your Scarlet Queen Halora. He's a decent PvE damage dealer. He's just decent overall. I would keep him on my account longer than any of the other heroes in the B tier besides Fiona, which is why we put him where he is. Next up, Saya. Saya just never had any great abilities, at least from what we've tested and seen. Nobody really gives her any credit. So I think that's where we're going to leave her. Next up, Andrea, bottom of the A tier because he is very good at what he does, but what he does isn't needed in every single game mode. He can be very good in PvP, can be very good in Light Sealand, actually required in Light Sealand to get 25 done with your Asmodel, but again, not really required. Not a Tenant for anybody important besides Asmodel, but a very good healer, probably one of the best heroes outside of Transcendence heroes in the game right now. Next up, we have Kirimaru. Again, not a great hero release. Can be usable for not solo, but Sealand 25 pushes in the Shadow faction. He's a good frontliner to just tank some hits. He is a Tenant for Sword Flash, but like I said, the Inosuke is a much better pick for a Tenant for Sword Flash, so yeah. After that, we have Avessa. So again, remember, Jara is placed here because she's either the top of S tier or the bottom of A+. Vessa is just that really good hero everywhere, but not the required hero. You put her in any game mode, she's going to be good. Honestly, I think she's the best solo Aspen Dungeon Death 100 hero in the game out there beyond Tix, the other Transcendence heroes, everybody. She's just very, very good. But she's not the best at anything, really. Maybe outside of PvE damage, but again, not really necessary. It's more of a luxury type thing. She's just very good everywhere. You can put her in any type of game mode and she will help your team. So that's why she goes up in the bottom of the S tier. Next up, we have Natasha. So we haven't done a lot of testing with Natasha, but she does seem viable for solo Sealand 20 in the Abyss faction. She has healing abilities. She's not that bad. Honestly, if Transcendence heroes didn't exist, I think she would probably fit in a really good spot in the meta. But do you want her on your account? No, but she does do good damage. I'd either put her in the B tier or the C tier. We're just going to leave her here because I don't want to go into too much detail about her, but she's not that bad. Another hero that's not that bad is a Heart Watcher. A lot of people wanted me to drop her down, and this is one of the 2 heroes on this list that do not have Void Imprints, but in the early and mid game, even into the late game, you're going to want her. The only time she drops off in PvE is when you're talking about Broken Spaces 8 and 9. Using an Olivia is typically a better outcome. Where is Olivia? Olivia's up there. But yeah, everybody should have a 10-star or an E3 Heart Watcher. Going E5 isn't really necessary, but she's a very good PvE support hero, even though she's very, very old on this list. Next up, we have Shaho. Don't really know what to make of him, but I know he's not as bad as some of these other heroes. He's just not relevant in the current meta, so goes in the C tier. Another one is Annabelle. She can be a good supporter for Sealand. Overall, again, another hero it's like just not really needed, but she's not bad. Down in the F tier, we're going to have a couple of these heroes. King Barton, just even with V4 imprints, is not relevant. Omnivore, even worse, I would say, than King Barton. Now, Michelle is one that I'm going to put up in the D tier because she does have some uses. Her revive, her stuns, her healing, providing support. It's not horrible, but I think I'd rather have the other light heroes down in the D tier over a Michelle. Valentino, we've had fun with Valentino, but in reality, he's not really that great. He's more just like a PvP type hero. He could have some uses in Vortex, could have some uses in Tower Dream, but is he required? Absolutely not. I would not invest in a Valentino. The bottom of the barrel of the newest row of V4 imprintable heroes is Jara. Just not good. Not a hero you'd want to build. And then lastly, we're gonna jump in a Cruz right around the C tier, somewhere low C tier. He's a solid hero. He's a good supporter in the early game, mid game. His stun is really cool if you have a Rui Scepter on him, but beyond that, not really that usable. So hopefully this gives you guys a good basis to go on. Again, like I said, next year we're going to be getting some help from the community to build some really comprehensible tier lists that break down how good they are in every single category with an overall score as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I know Olivia is one that we had tons of conversations about. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time.